This is Breaking Big, where we interview people about their careers in the entertainment industry. I'm your host, Erin Newmeyer. Everyone here at Thunder Tally Media is thrilled to be featured on the Hoo Ha Ha app under the Podcasts We Love section. Elizabeth Banks and her team are on a mission to spotlight and support women in comedy. One of the ways they do that is by amplifying women's voices like this podcast. If you haven't already, check out the hoohaha.com website and download the app. There's so much great content there. And now I'd like to welcome you to Breaking Big. Hi there. Thanks for joining us. You are going to love our show today. But first, I wanted to let you know that we are using Spotify to produce our podcast, which has a video feature. So we tape this show on camera and we show clips and photos. But don't worry, it will still be a great show. And if you are listening in the car or something, you can always go watch it later on our Thunder Tally Media pages on Facebook or on YouTube. So let's get started. This is the one with Jency Allison Weeks. You know, Jency is originally from Frisco, Texas, which is just north of Dallas, and now she lives in New York City. So you'll hear her Southern charm coming through when she's acting on shows like Dallas and Nashville. She's also the host of a terrific podcast called Lights, Camera, Rolling, Mom, where she interviews moms working in the entertainment industry. She herself is a mother, so she knows firsthand the crazy challenges of the biz. In 2022, Jency published her first children's book, The Adventures of Sophie and Clyde, The Wild West, which was a sweet story about friendship and speaking up. It's on Amazon if you want to pick up a copy. And she is a massive Golden Girls fan. For any of you out there that want a challenge, she's up for it. And by the way, she's the second massive Golden Girls fan that I've had on the show. It's so great to have you, Jency.
Thanks for letting me come chat with you, Erin. This is going to be a blast.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a very interesting story about like how you got started. You have a master's in sports management and you're a certified yoga teacher with, I think, like over 200 hours of instruction or something like that. So how did you get started in the TV and film industry?
So I never planned on being in TV and film. I was going the route. Ultimately, my goal with my sports management degree was to work for one of the halftime shows at a Super Bowl. So athletic is in my core, and I still love that world. It's very energetic. It's exactly like the acting world. But when my husband and I got married, we had my daughter. You're growing this human inside of you for 9 months. And I was like, I need to do something that's for me. And it's a little bit scary. So I signed up for an improv class. And within the first hour, my teacher came up to me afterwards and he was like, "You're great. Where have you studied? Who have your teachers been?" I was like, "Well, I've studied here the last hour and you are my teacher." So long story short, a couple of weeks later, I got put on Dallas, and a few months later, I got put on Nashville. And now we're, over in the East Coast, and things have just exploded.
That's fantastic. Is your husband also an athlete?
Yeah, he's worked at all different colleges, different levels in like D1, D3, worked at high schools. But yeah, so he is a strength and conditioning coach, athletic performance. Yeah.
Well, I'm really jealous because I feel like I could really use like a husband that could help get me into shape over here.
Well, he refuses. He's like, "I'm not training you." I was like, "Why not?" He says, "Because you complain." I was like, "Well, yeah, I get it."
That's funny. I joke because like my husband's actually way more active than I am. He coaches my son's mountain bike team. So he's always out there running and stuff. It's hard to find workouts that we both want to do that both fit our schedule at the same time.
Yeah.
I have made him come to yoga with me and also a Zumba class once. Anyway, this isn't about me, it's about you. So I wanted to know, you said somewhere, I can't remember if I read it on your website or if you said it in another podcast, that you treat acting roles like an athlete treats a competition. So I'm wondering, like, what do you do to prepare for, a show like Nashville?
Right. So if you think about an athlete, we'll just say, we'll just go college wise. You've been practicing since you were little. You have different training grounds that you've been in. You've had different coaches. You tweak different performances that you have on the field. And it's just a constant work. And though you might not see it on game day, there's still the background work that's being done. So when they go to the stadium on Saturday, they play their game. They might win, they might lose, but that doesn't mean that they haven't been successful, because it's been baby steps along the way to get there where they're at. So I take that the same way. Every little thing that you do as an artist, watching a film, watching, a TV show, writing a script, being on podcast, being with a network of people who continue to push you a little bit more each time. Even if you audition for that role and you don't book it, there's still baby pebble steps along the way that have gotten you there. Now, when you book it, it's amazing. If you don't, that's also okay, because that doesn't mean you haven't been successful up to that point. And that's just kind of how I look at it.
That's fantastic. You know what's interesting is I've been watching lately. There's like kind of this new trend with actors where once they book something, they'll post on, their Instagram or whatever, a clip of the actual show and then the clip of their audition. And it is amazing to me because, when I was like a baby actor, I used to think, oh, I'll just come in and do like whatever. And then when I get on set, the director's going to teach me how they envisioned it. You know what I mean? Or like direct me. But I've found especially in like the short film world, and like if you're just coming on to do a short part, like a smaller part, that you don't actually get a lot of like directing. They're more, the directing is more happening where they're like controlling like what it looks like, what it sounds like, what the shot is, but they've brought you in based on your audition tape and they just want you to do that.
Right. Exactly. Like to the T. And that's where all the workout comes after, or not after, before. So if you've practiced self tapes, great. You have that muscle. If you've practiced being in an improv, great, that's done. So when you're on set, they're like, oh, shoot an improv with them. Like, okay, I've done that a couple times. So it's the workouts before that make the game day that much better when they happen.
I'm glad I could help you continue the analogy there. That was great.
All thanks to you, Erin.
I wanted to show some pictures. We have a photo of you on the set of Nashville. Look at that in those scrubs. That's amazing. Yeah, so you're sitting there in like the director's chair that actually has the word Nashville on the back. And are you playing a doctor?
Yeah, so I played a ER nurse. And what's kind of funny about this is kind of going back to what I said, we had dummy sides when we auditioned. And then when we got to set, they gave us a complete new set of sides because Connie Britton was killed off in the episode that I was in. So we actually had no idea what was going on until we got to set that morning. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you're an ER nurse. You're not a pediatrician. You're going to be working with Connie Britton, not with the other guy. She's dying off. Here's an NDA. So we really had no idea what was going on until that morning. And it was a blast. And what's funny about that photo is, especially for me, I feel bad taking pictures on set. A lot of the times you can't. So there was a group of 3 of us who were there, and we're like, okay, I'm going to go sit and turn around. You snap a photo, and then you go, and then, we'll snap each other's photos. So that was a very just, okay, ready and go, and run. And you kind of go back and be like, all right, Steve, you're next. Okay, ready. Okay, go. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we had dummy sides because we had no idea what was going on in that episode.
That's like the real behind the scenes story here.
Yeah.
That's great. And then you are also, you've played a doctor and now a lawyer we have a picture of you in this show called Treason. So tell us what's going on in this picture.
So, my scene partner, Rusty Joyner, and I are in JAG outfits, the white, from the Navy, the military, and we're the lawyers in this film. And it again, the film is called Treason, and it just goes through the different things that these amazing men and women defend while they're in the Navy. I can't really say much more about it, but we shot that in Dallas. It was beautiful weather that day. We walked around with our JAG uniforms on. We felt so proud how that all carried out. It was just like a goosebump moment. So whenever that comes out, it's going to be a really fun, down to earth, God bless America. Here's what our troops do behind the scenes type film.
I love that so much. We actually have a lot of people in the military in my family. My dad was a Coast Guard, my brother was in the Marines, and then on my husband's side, we've got lots of Army, and I grew up by the Air Force Base, so like most of the people I went to school with. So I have a lot of gratitude for the people that serve.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I have chill bumps, even like thinking about all the scenes that we did and being able to put on the uniform. I was never in the military, so I was like, are you sure I'm okay to wear this? But it's going to be a beautiful film.
That's really cool. So I wonder, do you think that it helped you at all to start in theater or improv, as far as like kind of, getting your feet wet before you started doing any film and TV?
Honestly, I don't know, because my route was so different than everybody else, because I just signed up on a whim to be like, I'm gonna do improv. I laugh because my whole journey thus far, Erin, has been I make fun of my hands. I'm like, how to find an improv class, and you type it on the computer and there pops up the name. Great, I'm gonna go there. How to contact someone to write a book, that pops up. Okay, we'll go there. How to put together a pilot film. Okay. So I don't know any different. I'm sure it helps if you start on the stage, but I think wherever you are and you feel a creative pull, just jump in.
That's what I really hear your message is. It's like a lot of times we stop ourselves from taking a step out of like fear or like worrying that we won't be good enough, or that other people will judge us in some way. But kind of just having that I don't want to say childlike naivete is like, oh, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm just going to jump anyway. That can really bring a lot of rewards.
Yeah, and it's scary, and you have to dive into it. A lot of headwind brings many rewards. So as long as you're pushing through that headwind, I think you come out better on the other side. And what a more unique way to not stand apart. Everybody stands apart in our business because nobody is the same, but just to start asking questions and to say, I don't know what I'm doing. You look great. Your resume looks cool. Can you help me out? And a lot of the times people will say yes. You do have people who say no, and you're just like, and get rid of them. But you're creating a community, so why not?
That's fantastic. Well, I wanted to talk to you about your podcast, actually, because when I came across it, I was so excited. As a mom in this industry, I always find it really challenging. I'm a part of all these women's organizations like, Women in Film, Women in Media, the Alliance of Women Directors, and then you get there. And while it is a lot of women and they are definitely focused on a lot of female issues, it seems like the motherhood part gets left out so much of the time. So when I saw the title of your podcast, I think we have the image for it, lights, camera, rolling, mom. That's how I hear it. I think that's how you might even say it when you do the introduction. it's so great. Like, it's just so perfect because that's exactly what happens. You start on something, you're in the middle of it, and then somebody needs you. It's guaranteed. So why don't you tell us where you got the idea?
So the podcast started when the pandemic, when lockdown happened. And I pitched the idea to someone on my team at the time. And they're like, I don't know if it'll work. I'm like, well, they're podcast out how to be a mom. Do you feel organic? Do you send your kid to, friend school? Do you send them to public school? And then on the other side, how to write a, monologue, how to deepen your tears when you're crying on set. You had both worlds, but I couldn't find a podcast that really combined the two and heard moms talking about being in the industry. So I reached out to a couple of friends, and from there, we're on season 3. I think we already have about 50 interviews with moms like yourself. And it's been really cool to see people's reactions and hear the same thing that you just said, is many times there are so like powerful women in the entertainment industry. Just, we don't talk about being a parent, specifically being a mom, because it's been a hush hush thing. And I laugh because it's kind of like like an initiation. You're like, hey, I'm in the industry. And they're like, oh, me too. They're like, do you have a family? And they're like, yeah, I have a son. Oh my gosh, I have a daughter. And so it's kind of it's not a secret thing, but it's just not talked about enough. And these women are amazing, like Lisa Zambetti, Kara Rosenbaum, Erica Beam. We have an Emmy winner, the costume director for Yellowstone, Christine Daracole. She's a Peloton instructor. Andrea Courtney, she's my manager at Established Artists, and a very, very well-known director, Bethany Rooney, just to name a few, who are all moms and who have been very, very successful. And it's really fun to hear everybody's stories, especially their personal stories, when those moments of being a mom and being in the industry collide. It's just really funny to hear the Zoom calls, breakdowns in the car, taking their kids to auditions. So it's really closing the gap between those two worlds.
Yeah, it's so true. I feel like it still is this way, unfortunately, but what we're working past it is you didn't want to say that you were a mom because I feel like people would assume that you might have a problem, like getting to a place, or you could end up having a sick kid, or, you know what I mean? Like maybe you weren't 100% invested in whatever the project was. And it's this weird thing because moms are actually even better at that stuff, because we got to know where we're going, where they're going. We got to make all the appointments, all the schedules. Like we're constantly planning and organizing everything, like huge time management. And I think if anything, like moms overcommit, like we're 150% in when we're in, so it's unfortunate that that's the case. But I think it's getting better. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And especially this podcast, it's reached, we just had our 10,000th download a couple of weeks ago. So it's obviously reaching somewhere, doing something. I don't know if someone's in their basement just like clicking play and keeping it on a loop, but whoever's listening, it's sticking. And it starts to bring down that wall of the stigma of women, especially moms in the entertainment industry, that you're not, like you said, not committed. You can't make it because there's a soccer game. When really in reverse, we know schedules, we know how to get things done. We know exactly what's for dinner, even if we cook it or don't. And we know how to work things. And also, just like in the entertainment industry, we have a tribe of people who can help us when we need that help. So I think the stigma is slowly starting to come down, but it's podcasts like this and like Lights, Camera, Rolling Mom that will start to, I hopefully, wash that away.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about like how you organize your podcast, because there's a lot of people out there that might have an idea for a podcast or just starting out, and it can maybe seem overwhelming. So like, how do you decide, who you're going to interview, or how do you organize yourself around, do you come up with like topics and then go find a person that matches that topic, or do you just, what's your process?
Yeah. And again, kind of like I said, I had this idea and was like, how do I do a podcast? And all of these wonderful people popped up, and I just said my idea. They're like, great, run with it. So for me and our show, a lot of the people we get is referrals, or I'll just catch someone will catch my eye and I'll be like, oh, Bethany Rooney, are they a parent? And because I watched an episode that they did on Chicago Fire. She directs Chicago Fire, the Chicago PD stuff. So I'll Google and be like, oh, okay, she's a parent, reach out. And I really just have two questions that I ask. What a funny moment being a parent and being in the industry, how those worlds collide, a funny story, and then the best mom advice they can give people in the entertainment industry. But other than that, Erin, it's very organic and we ebb and flow and we laugh. So I don't have a specific topic that we talk about. We just talk about being a parent, being a mom, and all the crazy things that go on in the entertainment industry.
I have to say, it's one of the things that I admire about your podcast is you keep it very simple with those two questions. And I notice all of your shows end up being about 30 minutes. That was always my goal, is to have a 30-minute show. But unfortunately, my personality is like, I ask a question and then I need to know more. But I think it's great.
That's perfect.
I just think it's so great, though, because I think 30 minutes, I mean, for people that are thinking about starting a podcast, I think 30 minutes is probably like the golden standard. You know, it's a perfect amount of time for jumping in the car, or going for a run or something.
Right. And if your podcast ends up being 10 minutes, I have another friend who was on our show. Her and her best friend have a show called Unstoppable Topics. I think that's the one. Don't hate me for that. And theirs is 15. And so whether it's 15 minutes or 45 to an hour, Audrey helps actors. Hers are about an hour. It's just part of you and the way that you create. So 10 minutes, 15, hour and a half. Awesome. You're doing it. Keep putting it out there.
I wonder, do you work with a team then? Like, do you have editors? Do you use marketing people? Like, what's your behind the scenes?
So the first season, it was just me. I did all the marketing. I figured out how to edit, recording over Zoom, what didn't work, the different, platforms that we could use. So that was all me season one. And then season two and this current season 3, brought in a beautiful editor. She was also a guest on the podcast, Julie Deem. And then I have a group of people who do our marketing on the side. So, but I'm still very hands-on on everything, just because I think it's just fun to see what everybody has going on and support them at the same time.
And using Zoom is such a great way to get started, because everybody has it now and everybody's super comfortable with it. And even if you only use the audio, the thing I like about doing the videos, we can see each other, and, you can see that I'm smiling, or I'm dazing off. I'm losing, if you're losing somebody, you can see it, so, right. Or if, it's like time to wind up the conversation, you can just kind of feel it better when you can make that eye contact. But you can just use the audio. You don't have to use the video.
Right.
And that's pretty cool. And plus, I think the sound has gotten pretty good on Zoom. Do you use any special microphones or anything?
I have a mic, and then a plug-in for the computer to figure, all that stuff out before I send it over. But my first season, I just had my AirPods, and that was all I did. And it sounds great. So.
Do you use like Adobe Audition or Audacity or something for your editing?
I don't know what she uses, to be honest, but whatever Julie uses is amazing.
What were you using when you first were working on it?
Oh my gosh. Before I put it into iMovie.
Oh, okay.
And took out, because I didn't how to edit a podcast. I don't know. And so that's the only thing I knew how to do. And then I just took out the video and just did the audio and uploaded it to our website. So, I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, but it ended up being okay. Put the time and effort into it, and it'll come out on the other side.
Well, I think that's where content is king. You know what I mean? I think if you have good people, good interviews, a good like advice or topics or something, like people are going to listen even if it doesn't sound like it was recorded in like a soundproofed studio. Were there any like particular challenges that you faced?
Um, Throwing myself out there and being like, "Hey, my name's Jency. I'm a mom. I have no idea what I'm doing. I want to start a podcast. Would you be a guest?" And, some of these people like Marie Schley, who has the Emmy for Yellowstone, or Bethany Rooney, who's the big director. For me, it's kind of scary to be like, "Hi, I'm just little old me. I want to talk about being a mom." And I would think that's the only thing that would get in my way, is not thinking that I was quote worthy enough to talk to these women who have been in or in the same boat that I am. Everything else technical, y'all, we live in a technical world. It's going to end up going out one time or another. I had another interview who it took us 3 hours to get 30 minutes because our internet kept going in and out. So technical issues, they're just going to happen. But I would really say, I guess the emotional, like thinking that I can't just talk to people, it was really scary for me. But I got over that hump really, really quick, because everybody I've talked to, like yourself, have been amazing.
I also wanted to talk to you about another really exciting project that you have. You mentioned that you were like, how to write a book, and you just like searched it up, and you did. You wrote a book. It's so amazing. We have a picture of the book cover here, so you can tell us about this.
So, Sophie and Clyde in the Wild West is based on my daughter in her puppet. My daughter's name is JC, and she has a little orange yellow monster named Clyde that she actually puppeteers. Long story short, she was bullied during school. During a couple of months back at, I think she was in second grade. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, why are you coming home crying?" She was like, "Because people are making fun of me for liking Sesame Street." Like, well, that doesn't make sense, because she looks at it as a job, looking at the mechanics of the hand, looking at how you can reach other people. So I got on my computer, "Who plays Big Bird?" and Googled the guy who plays Big Bird, and an email popped up, and JC just did a little video, and we put that out in the universe, and we didn't think anything would come of it. Follow up 6 months, JC is now being mentored by some of the Sesame Street cast, and she has this whole series over one of her puppets named Clyde. So she was talking about her experience, and she said, "I want to write a book." I was like, "Great, let's write this book together." She was 8 at the time. So we started writing this book, and it just came out all organically. And we based it in the Wild West because we're all originally from Texas. So we threw in the Texas theme to it. And it's a really sweet story about a girl named Sophie and her friend Clyde, and the different adventures that they get to go on, and the lessons that they learn along the way. So the Adventures of Sophie and Clyde, the Wild West, is about standing up for things that you believe in, and standing up for your friends.
I love it so much, and the illustrations are so like they're so sweet. It's kind of like a line drawing with watercolor type of a look, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really great. We have a picture actually of you with it and her puppet Clyde that I'd love to show you, so you can see here. Yeah, so it really does look like a Sesame Street style puppet. It's like a kind of an orange fur and a little purple nose and the big, Sesame Street style mouth. It's very cool.
Right. So that's Clyde. He is hilarious. He's just a huge goofball, and that was one of JC's first puppets. So he has a very special place in our heart. And in this photo, I'm assisting her with the hands. This is called a rod puppet. And working both hands at the same time is really hard. I don't know how she does it. I probably mess her up half of the time, but it's really fun to be able to support her in this artistic endeavor and through the book and being able to tell stories through these characters.
And puppeteering is really one of those things that, like, it's an art form on its own. I mean, it's incredibly challenging, and also I think you kind of have to contort yourself, like, so you're hiding your body away while you're also like voicing. I imagine she's voicing the puppet and operating its arms, and sometimes there's like blinking eyes and things, like.
Yes, and it's so funny. So through one of her mentors, you're in especially this Henson Style, you're in a camera. So you have to squatch down, knock out your head, keep your hand up, look at a monitor, because the monitor is flip-flopped. So you going right, the monster is going left, and it's the whole right and left brain thing. But then also, if you're in a shoot with other people and all the characters are close, I mean, you can see it on some of the puppeteers' Instagram photos. You're up in armpits. You're just snuggled up against each other to get this beautiful shot. So yeah, it's very physical. You have to have really good eye-hand coordination, reading at the same time. So I don't know. I give major props to everybody who does that because it is hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
Has she made any of her own puppets yet, or helped design, other puppets?
Yeah, she hasn't made it. That's another whole art form in itself. I don't have the patience to have her do that yet, but she did create one of her newest puppets. His name is Wallingford. He's a Canadian goose. She designed him, and he's been a blast to work. He's a bag puppet, like Cookie Monster or Elmo, or not Elmo, Cookie Monster or Ernie, kind of a big baggy shoulder. Call those a bag puppet, and so she created a bag puppet for Wallingford.
Very cool. I saw there was I think I must have come across it on Instagram or something. I saw people learning how to sew or make the puppets, and it's amazing, because then you get to, there's so many incredible components of that, the storytelling and the voicing, and how very cool.
Yeah.
So I think you can get your book on Amazon, right? The Sophie and
you
Clyde.
Can get it. Yeah, you can get it on Amazon, online at Target, or online at Barnes and Noble.
That's so cool. I love it. Do you have plans for a sequel or a series?
So what's funny is I saw this video today. There's a song that Ernie sings about wanting to live on the moon. And JC had always liked that song. So Ernie talks about going a couple different places. And so JC wants to do a follow-up, and so we'll write another book for about 3 or 4 more adventures that Sophie and Clyde will go on. I think the next up is to the sea. So Sophie and Clyde visit the sea.
So great. When you're writing these books, how do you, I mean, I saw the illustrator is someone else. So you have, so you're working with an illustrator. Are you working also with like an editor or anything like that to help pull it together? And then I'm wondering, like, when you do a book like that, because I know that there are ways to do like cafe press, where like you don't have to pay up front to do a big run of something and then store it and then ship it. They just like run them one at a time. Or is this something where like the publisher has all the books and they're taking care of the distribution piece?
Yeah, so JC wrote the story out. They were in her words. I just, as a mom, as in the older person, I just kind of swept in and was like, okay, you can't use this word. Let's switch this out. And so I did find an editor. I Googled children's book editors, and this wonderful guy who's in Tennessee, he took on the book and kind of helped us made it flow a little bit better. And then I found the artist for the illustration. She's based over in the UK because, like you said, it's that watercolor look. And we self-published, but we are in talks with other publishing companies for the other books of the series.
Wow, congratulations. I love that so much.
Thanks.
I just like, you are an inspiration. You just are like, I'm going to do this. And then here you go. Now you have a book, you got a podcast, you're on TV, film. You know what I mean? It's just like you are basically the epitome of somebody manifesting their life. It's so great.
Thanks.
So while I'm giving you a little shout out for being, so amazing, I wondered if you have any shout outs that you wanted to give to other people that might have helped you along the way, any mentors or anything that, stood out to you, or even if you have ideas of like things that people should look into or other like resources for getting in the business.
Yeah, big, huge shout out to my team, my managers and my agents. I couldn't do what I do without them. It's a very, two-way street. We both work together. The classes that I attend, I would say that would be a huge thing if you want to get into the acting world. Find a class. They're everywhere, and I think some are still on Zoom. So go find a studio near yours. I love mine in New York. It's a great community, and just you never know who you're going to meet along the way who will help you out. So shout out to all those people.
What is the name of the studio that you use in New York?
So I'm at MN Studios in New York, and it's been a great community. There are a lot of moms there who are in the same boat as us, and just everybody creatively is trying to just take that next leap, whether it's find a co-star, write a pilot, or just get their feet wet. So that studio really fit me really well. But there are amazing studios all over who will find the niche for you.
Very cool. Well, I have a little shout out too. I came across this doing my Instagram, scroll, waiting to pick up my kid, but it's so cool. So I know you've probably heard that there's kind of been a resurgence of book banning, which you've just written a book, so you can imagine like some of these books, you're like, why is this book even getting banned? It's so crazy. So the Brooklyn Library in New York has come up with a program that they also started over the pandemic. It's called the Unbanned Books Program, and I have a little graphic for it so you can kind of see what they're looking at. And basically, if you are like 13 to 21 and you live anywhere, you can email them, like anywhere in the United States, probably anywhere in the world, really, but you could email them at booksunbanned at Brooklyn Library, which is BKLYN library.org, and they will give you a free library e-card, which will give you access to digitally read any book that you want to read, because they made them all absolutely available. I just want to give you some stats here with this. The American Library Association documented 1,269 demands to censor library books and resources in 2022. That is a huge number. It is actually the highest number since they started collecting this data in the last 20 years. And it doubled from 2021, where it was only like 729. So, and it's really sad. This is really sad to me. It's like most of the targeted books were for teenagers, and they were about either, people who were Black or people that were LGBTQIA+. So it just seems really unfair, especially because if you are in one of those like underserved, underrepresented categories, that now books that represent you are being banned, when we all know how important it is to have representation, to see yourself, like your daughter can see herself. And I mean, even though I think the character has a different name, she can kind of see herself in that story. It's so important, and other kids will be able to identify with that. So I'm really excited. Go New York. Because it's so great. Anyway, so if you are 13 to 21 and you want to get this library card, I highly recommend you go check it out. And I just wanted to thank Jency so much for joining us today. You are truly an inspiration to me, and I'm sure many other people. I love that, you just put your mind to something and you do it. It's fantastic. So thank you so much for taking your time to be on the show today.
Thanks, Erin. I appreciate it. That was so fun.
Well, you can keep up with Jency on her website at JencyAllisonWeeks.com. And please listen to her podcast. It is so good. Lights, Camera, Rolling Mom on Apple Podcasts. And you can also follow her on Instagram at Jency Allison Weeks. I'll, of course, drop all of this in the show notes, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening. Well, that's our show. We hope you loved it. If you did, make sure you're subscribed, tell your friends about it, and why not write us a review? If you know someone that would make a great guest on our show, drop us a line. You can find us on Instagram at ThunderTally, or go to our website, thundertally.com. This show was produced by Bex Francis, edited by me, Erin Newmeyer. The music was performed and written by Dylan Newmeyer. And our sponsor is Filmcraft LA, so make sure you go check them out. This has been a